Okay, cool. So Sus, Tunis, Monastir, we've kind of got everyone represented today. Okay, good. Sfax, very cool. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. That's my window. Don't be alarmed. It's kind of windy in Tunis today. Nebel, okay. Manuba. All right, I see we still have people joining. And so we're not going to officially start yet. And along with where you're from, type in, why are you interested? What brought you here today? Type in the chat, what brought you here today? Bin there, it's okay. Cool. Yeah, go ahead, drop us a line or two. Why are you interested? What are you working on? A master's thesis. All right, cool. I did that last year. Another thesis. Awesome. MA student. Cool, cool. Yeah. So definitely any writing project you're working on, whether you're thinking about, starting an intensive writing degree in the humanities, maybe you're applying to an exchange program, you're in the right place, especially Fulbright. All of that applies. You're more than welcome. Happy to have you here. Application for scholarship, great. Another master's thesis, great. All right, lots of writing going on. So with that, Annie, do you think I can go ahead and jump in, or should we wait?
I think it's okay to get started, and I'll just continue to let people in as we go.
Okay, great. So we're going to jump into the slide here. Annie will be monitoring the chat. So, and a big shout out to her for hosting us today. I'm just going to move there we are. So we're going to jump right in. My name is Celeste. I'm currently an Amides teacher. I just completed my master's in political science last year in Budapest. And before that, I did a history degree. So both writing intensive degrees, both had an intensive academic writing. So it seems like I couldn't get away from that. And so I'm happy to share what I've learned today. So if you haven't dropped, where you're from and why you're here in the chat, do that again now. Don't be shy. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please do let us know, right? We're here for you, and we want you to leave today with all your questions answered. All right, for the outline today, we're going to go over the definition. We're going to get some examples here. Why should we avoid it? If it's not obvious, I will give you a few more things to think about. And then we're going to cover a few writing aspects of this, including proper quotation marks, citations. We'll go over some style guides. And if we have time, we can actually do a bit of an exercise to see how this all comes together. All right. So before we jump in, actually, if you're in the chat, one more thing I want you to write is any question you have right now. If you're working on that master's thesis or a scholarship application, what's a question that you have? And while you're answering that, okay, a research paper on quantum mechanics is one. High school, great, welcome. Okay. All right, Zainab, rewriting, fabulous, welcome. And more masters. All right, so the question we got is how to avoid it in general. So we're on this lovely definition page right now. What is plagiarism? According to the Oxford Dictionary, plagiarism is the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as your own. This can apply to music, pictures, any type of writing, anything you're putting out into the world. Today we will focus on writing, as most of you are here for the masters and you know, the nuts and bolts here are for writing. All right, so we have a question here, interesting, as I'm looking at your responses. So how do you stand out? Maybe Miriam, give me a clarification, you know, standing out in your writing, or how do you identify plagiarism? The bibliography, okay, we can get to that in the end, yes. Good question, Zainab. And Anis, yeah, okay, so what happens when everyone has a very common idea, and how do you share your idea or your perspective or your twist without creating problem? We will get to that as well. Aha, the software, Suha. Yes, you're getting ahead of us. We will get to that. There are lovely softwares used by universities, many universities today. Every paper I turned in for my master's thesis, whether it was 1 page or 40, was put through software that could detect plagiarism. Okay, how to stand out in your writing. Good, thank you for the clarification, Miriam. That would be more so, if you follow everything we do today, that will, you know, put you into that category. It can help you fine tune your writing. So a lot of avoiding plagiarism is in fact being, you know, it's communicating your ideas clearly and producing a well-written essay or paper. All right, so Esma, I will get back to your question. And Annie, I might have you remind me of that one as we're getting into it. Okay. All right, so I want to know, give me some examples of plagiarism. Anyone? Plagiarism with writing. Let's focus on writing. Yeah? I'll give you a few more seconds. So anything you can think of. I'm gonna state the obvious, copying and pasting, right? We got a lot of great resources on the web. Copying and pasting would be number one, a huge one there. Okay, okay. All right, Umaima, good. Inserting a whole quote as your own opinion without credit to respective owners, right? That would be, again, direct copying and pasting, passing it off as your own. So I'm gonna put this up here. Here's a couple of things. Again, copying, pasting, don't do it. I'll tell you more. If it's not clear by the end, remind me, we'll go over it. Copying and pasting, but changing a few words to make it different, okay? If you've done this, you know, just tell yourself, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I've worked with a lot of students. Many people think you can beat plagiarism software by copying and pasting and then going in and changing some words for the synonyms. Doesn't work to beat the software. You will still be, you will be detected under that software. And I know this is the common practice, but I'm gonna give you another reason not to do it right now either. And that is when you copy and paste a whole paragraph from someone else's work, that's in fact not helping your essay because you're not framing it within your essay question. Your structure of your essay becomes quite confusing and messy, and you're not doing yourself a favor. So even if you copy and paste with changing or tweaking a few words, not gonna help. So let's bust that myth right now. Quoting someone without quotation marks. Boom, there we go. I think it was Umaima who brought that up. And then, sorry, that's the window again. Writing about an idea or argument without providing the citation. So that would be Haifa, and also Miriam. If you are writing even common ideas, things that you think are common knowledge, people out there may disagree with you. So by providing a citation while paraphrasing your one, you're covering, you know, it's backup. You're backing up the information, and at the same time, you are adding support for your argument. It looks a lot better when someone says that the majority of people in the United States are not wearing face masks when you put that footnote or endnote or add a link to statistics from a reputed source. Okay. All right, so Anise has another question. Thinking about when you are reading books and you might learn something meaningful and they might influence you in that way. So how do you really, is that considered plagiarism? Is it not? So before we move on to the next slide, let's zoom out here for a second. When you write anything, when you're writing your Facebook post, when you're writing your application essay for Fulbright or YES, or maybe you're writing a paper for your history class, you are entering into a conversation, right? You should be influenced at that point. You should be responding to other sources, voices, authors, books that are already out there. You're not just stepping out and saying, hello world, look at this is all mine. No, you're responding, you're having a conversation, you're showing up to a table. When you think that, okay, even if you're influenced, I'd say in Anisa's example, if you're influenced by these books, your own voice, your own word choice, your own style, you're gonna write this in a way that is not, you can still paraphrase if you're thinking back to that moment, but when you produce your own writing, that is yours, There are whole genres of reviewing books, movies, etc. Making it in your own words makes it yours, but when you have that idea, I think if it's really clear and strong to the point you want to write about it, you're going to know where it comes from. If it's lost on you, it's lost on you. And that means perhaps it's more of your own voice. That would be my opinion. Okay, so we're jumping into, here's a little more on why we should avoid it. All right, for one, stealing is unethical. Don't do it. Has anyone gotten their phone stolen on the metro? Throw us a yes in the chat, right? How did you feel if you've gotten your phone stolen? Maybe one of your friends has reposted your poem that you put, yeah, Haifa, yeah, the phone. You know how that feels, right? So think about when we have professional authors, writers, they're putting things up on the internet. And, if you turn around and copy and paste that, boom, that's like stealing the phone on the metro. So, yep, Zainab has that experience, right? I mean, I've had a phone stolen before. It's a gut sinking, not great. So if ever you want to copy and paste, just think about that. Do you want to steal the phone? Don't do it. All right, secondly, it's illegal. Sometimes there will be, or, you could get to the point of legal consequences. I'd say if you're still a student, it doesn't usually get that far. It's mostly you're gonna either fail the class, the semester, maybe you'll even be expelled for that semester or the upcoming year. That's more from the American's perspective. Not 100% sure what happens here, but if you guys are writing in English in mind for that type of setting, that's the norm. Yeah. Annie, would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. They're very strict about that in US universities, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, certainly. They kind of instill that fear in you. All right. And so that's university in general. I want to again note that here, if you're working on an exchange program, essay, application, or if you're working on a research proposal to apply to a US master's or PhD, yeah, these types of, these places you're submitting, they are using the software, very much so. And don't let this copying pasting issue or plagiarism issue hold you back. It can be a quiet killer of your success. So just pay attention to the rest of this here and be careful about that. And lastly, this little bubble to the bottom right is when you copy and paste, you're undermining your own intelligence, because you all should very much respect yourself to the point that you have your own voices. You have a unique perspective on things. Do not be lazy. Do not sell yourself short and do the copy and paste. And that, again, really limits your potential. All right. This is the lovely software we've been mentioning. This is Turnitin, the one that I'm familiar with. So, for example, what happens when you're submitting to a professor or institution that uses this software? They put the paper in, and there's a percentage. It's 72 in this picture. 72, that means that 72% of your text matches another source, whether it's, in Turnitin, their library that they have logged is so large, covering most of the internet, published works, etc. So that 72% means that that matches identically coming from somewhere else. And again, that percentage is linking towards when you copy and paste and tweak the words, you'll have like every other word highlighted. They're gonna catch that. And they can, with these softwares, they can even tell where it's coming from. So again, that helps them detect it. But here's the thing, a normal paper on these types of software actually has, like, I think it's a 6 to 10% usually. And that's because when you paraphrase something and cite it, of course it's going to sound similar. Not exactly, they can see. These people are really skilled at seeing what paraphrasing looks like in Turnitin and also what plagiarism looks like. The software also puts in red flags to indicate what they think would be actually plagiarism. Good. So just a couple notes here. So where to find these softwares? I think Turnitin itself, which is one of the best, is quite expensive. There are a couple others out there less expensive. I don't think it's free, but you could at times go and seek out a cheaper one. I would say if you are honestly writing and following the tips in this presentation, you should not be worried. You will fall within that 6 to 10%, which is normal. So no, again, it's very rare to have a paper that's 0%. Goes back to that part about how your essay, when you write an essay, you're joining a conversation. Yeah, another one about that. It's not free, but go and check to see if you can find a cheaper option. Okay, of course, how to avoid it, the basics. All right, so remember this, guys. We're gonna follow Purdue today for the quotes. The Purdue OWL Writing Lab is a great resource. And I would just pause there because if you're concerned about all of the links and everything mentioned in this presentation, at the end of all of this, I'm gonna drop you a link in the chat and you'll have all of these slides with all the links. So keep that in mind. Don't worry about writing everything down and figuring out how to save this all. You will get a link with everything in it. All right, so we're gonna go to direct quotations. And with that, here's the deal. If you have only a few pages for an essay or scholarship application, personal statement, etc., I would say don't use quotes unless they're absolutely necessary. Unless you're talking about a famous quote that has inspired you, or you need to include an exact definition of something, that would be a place to use quotes. Other than that, I'd say that people reading your written work, they want to hear what you think, and that's going to come out more so in paraphrasing. But if you got to use the quotes, you can see my I'm a bit salty. You see, when you must use someone else's words while writing, you must use quotations. And salty, 1, because you got to use the quotations. 2, because think twice before you directly quote. A lot of times it's not necessary, and you should rely on your own paraphrasing skills. We have this lovely example. The detective said, I'm sure who performed the murder. This is a dialogue example. Dialogue would be for perhaps if you're writing, I think if you're a student of literature, this might come up if you need to do dialogue here. But this would get more complicated with the actual 3 marks. If you are a person who's doing that, go to Purdue Lab. They will give you a step-by-step way to cite those types of things. Yeah. But I'm more interested in the second example, honestly. So you're so influenced by someone, you have no idea how to paraphrase what they're saying, so you're going to go ahead and use their exact words. Second example here, as D.H. I think Natchez explains, the gestures used for greeting others differ greatly from one culture to another. We would have a footnote here if this was a paper. We'll get to that later. But you see we have his name here. It's very clear who said this, and then the footnote would tell us where we got it or where we've seen it written. Yeah, Annie, exactly. It's lovely. So this is paraphrasing. Again, the benefits, you are writing in your own voice, your own words. You save that original meaning, but by putting it in your own words and taking what you need to from the text, it benefits the structure and clarity of your essay. Let's see, who was the last person to, Sarah Ben-Shaban. I need you as a volunteer. Can you unmute yourself? If you can be so bold as to volunteer and say hello when you're unmuted. If you're still here. Yeah? Sarah?
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so lovely. Thank you for jumping in. I'm going to have you read here the original source. Can you read this for us? In the 1980s.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1980s and 1990s, civil wars in countries such as Somalia, Bosnia, Rwanda, and Sudan changed the face of aid again. More and more aid was directed towards peacekeeping and emergencies.
Good. Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, we won't bother you. Not for a while, okay? So guys, so this is the original source. In the citation below, we see that it comes from, the author is Teresa Garlick. It's the book 20th Century Issues, Poverty Changing Attitudes, pages 50 through 51. So this person is, this is a quote coming from these pages. For the student's work, we're going to see how it changes to fit their needs, right? They're taking the idea, but they have your essay, your paper has specific needs. So the second to the last person, okay, Imen, so you're here learning about how to maybe help your students. Imen, if you can join us on audio and volunteer to read student work, we would love that.
Hi.
Thank you, Iman. Can you go ahead and read under the student work here?
Yeah. Civil wars in many countries, including Somalia and Rwanda, have caused aid to be redirected to peacekeeping and emergency relief.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So the students' work is obviously more direct. They cut right in. They don't have the 1980s, 1990s. They're taking what they need, but still preserving the original meaning. So again, this is what we call paraphrasing or indirect quotations. This Maryvale library, I shortened it, has an excellent excellent presentation out there on more on quotations and how to paraphrase. All right, so we're going to use a University of Warwick graph here. So many people, I think, find it difficult to paraphrase. It might not be natural at first, but if you're kind of new to this, I have a structure here, the simple structure. And this is not mine. This goes down to English grammar and what's widely acceptable for academic English writing. So if we want to refer to an idea, a lot of times we're going to say the writer's name, the writer, author. We're going to cite the source directly, not cite it, but we're going to throw their name in that sentence. It comes up as writer, reporting verb, which is going to be any of the words in green there on the right, plus that, plus subject, plus verb. So we could say that the New York Times revealed yesterday how Tunisia reported no new cases in the last 2 days. That's another example. Or Edward Said believes that the neo-colonialist influences have lived on in literature. And once we're done with that sentence, what we would do is we would do a citation, right? So every paraphrasing sentence or clause in your writing will end with a citation. So again, there's lots of good things. And you know, when we talk about voice, one thing to keep in mind is that depending on how strong of an argument you think the author or source you're working with has, you can use a variety of these. You have neutral, tentative, and strong. So you know what I mean, you know, describing is a lot different than arguing or claiming. There's a lot more weight behind these strong reporting verbs than these neutral ones, which would be observe, they're seeing things, they, you know, they're showing. Those are more soft. So it's up to you to decide. Again, it comes down to the goals of your paragraph, or more so the goals of your essay, I think would be a deciding factor here. I see Marwa, if you paraphrase, do you need to still mention it as an indirect quote? So here, if you're paraphrasing or indirect quoting, Marwa, you do not need to use citations. Nope, or sorry, scratch that. You do not need to use quotations. Citations are really important after the period of your last sentence, depending on the style. But if these are all of your own words where you're summarizing and you're using reporting verbs and the structure I show you here, the quotations are not necessary. Good. Hi, good afternoon, Layla. Welcome. Any more questions on paraphrasing before we move on? Yes, exactly, Umaima. You for sure have to mention the source. And why don't we jump to the next slide here on how we would do that. Oh no, okay, how do I go back? Oh, wait a second, guys. Oh. Sorry, I don't know what, aha, I got it. The buttons for what's it called, PowerPoint, are quite different when you share the screen. So I was trying to go the other way. We're good. All right, here we go, guys. We are working on citations, right, for quotes and paraphrased info. So let's say you have your paraphrase sentence, or you're done with your quotation marks. What do we do now? So you have a couple of options here. You have in-text citations like Footnotes, Chicago style, if you're familiar. Or APA, you might have in parentheses the author, page number, year. That could be a possibility too. We'll talk more about styles on the next slide. And then endnotes. That's where you would put perhaps a footnote, or depending on your publisher or professor, maybe it's not necessary. And then at the end of your essay or written work, you would post all of your references. So this shows here, this would be footnotes in action. We have the small 1, the small 2, and this would be the end of the page. Footnotes again at the end of the page. All right, minimum percent. Dora, is that the minimum percent on the software, or? Okay, we'll wait for you to send us that. And Layla, so it's okay. I'll provide a link for all the slides at the end. And Amadis will put up a recording sometime probably this week for the beginning. Oh, okay, Annie, you got that, sorry. I'm behind. You're way ahead of us. Thank you, Annie. Okay, sweet. Okay. Okay, so let me just say, when it comes down to the actual citations, it's not the most exciting topic, it's not the most riveting, and it's very tedious. However, I will say that with today's citation generators and the resources like Purdue Online and several other, it's possible. So don't be afraid of the citations aspect. Just do use what's out there online, and don't be afraid to check, right? It's very much a formula. A lot of these citations styles are a formula that you have to follow. And once you're familiar with 1, the order of the information, and 2, the punctuation, then it's not so intimidating. Okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna catch up in the chat here. Yeah, 6 to 10% Dora and Haifa on that software is normal. Yes is good, good. All right. And the last note for the citation style guides. So when you are writing your paper essay, be sure to ask whether, even if it's not specified in the instructions or information, ask to whoever you're submitting, whether it's an academic department, professor, the head of exchange programs at the embassy, or someone at Amadis who's doing Fulbright, MEPI, etc. Ask them, like, hey, I'm citing sources. Like, what's the best way to do that? Should it be Chicago? Should it be endnotes, footnotes? Get some clarification so that, you know, if they wanted a specific style and you didn't do it, that will only count against you in the end. So don't be afraid to ask. Say, hey, I'm citing sources. Is there one that you prefer we use? Very important there. Okay, so again, we have, yeah, that one's a good one for citations. Yep, we have all of these. And a note on style guides, it depends what maybe academic field you're working in, what type of degree you're doing, I think. I did history, and history was very much Chicago style. And within Chicago style, you actually have 2. You have footnotes, which was mostly history, and then you have author date, which is actually political science. Annie, what did you use in your studies?
I studied art and art history. They would regularly let us use MLA, but as we kind of got farther in our research, it was usually Chicago as well. Kind of, okay, again, depending on what we're doing, footnote or citation.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love art history, guys. That's so cool. Everyone in SUS, I'm jealous. I'm sure you guys got all kinds of good programming. That's awesome. Okay. Now I'm getting distracted. All right. Okay, catch up in the chat. All right, Umaima's doing Chicago for cultural studies. Awesome. APA, cultural studies, it's also normal. I know social sciences, sociology, anthropology, they might kind of stray towards that APA. I just finished up a draft of a book chapter on community development, and they were looking for APA. Ooh, medical studies, that would be new to me. That might be a essay, but double check whoever you're submitting to. MLA, okay. MLA is a common one as well. Economics, that's a new one. APA, sweet, I'm learning too right now, this is cool. So Purdue is your go-to place. Just check, do note that if you're in one of the styles that does, either have footnotes or endnotes, the footnotes is usually different from your bibliography at the end. And this again is part of the tedious aspect where you gotta know the order and you gotta know the punctuation for both. And this Purdue will tell you, just look at the examples they have. Even if you're using the generators, a couple I have here, Citation Machine, that's a good one. Zotero, we'll get into that in a second. But even if you're using a citation guide, the citation guide, double check, Citation Machine, double check the citation generator, what it gives you, because sometimes they'll have missing information, and these are important, especially when you get to the MA level or PhD. Yeah, so Annie, you probably have been through this, yeah. Citations, just, take a look at the examples. Right. You just want to avoid these problems, because if you turn in a paper or written work, one that's plagiarized, it's not, bad consequences. And two, the fact that if you turn in a work with messy or incorrect citations, you're going to be docked points. So I have some geopolitics students right now, and I do have that as part of the grade of an essay because it's very important. All right. Oh, we have translation in psychology. I love it. I love it. Environmental. So science, Zainab, I would say it depends on where you're submitting your written work to. If you have an essay you're working on, just email whoever you're submitting to. All right, so let's go to Zotero. This is something I've used briefly, but it's more of a writing tool. It's not just a citation generator. It has extensions that you can put on your browser so that when you find an online article or journal, you can just click a button and import the citation in whatever style you are working in. And it's magic. It's great. It's something you download. Most universities or institutions will have a download available through their library. If not, I'm not sure how much it is, or if it's not free. But if you are a student somewhere, do check if it's available through your library. Yeah. Annie, have you used Zotero?
I have not used it, but I regularly use things like JSTOR and other programs like that through our school library, and you can get your citations out of there. But again, it's always good to check, make sure, don't just cut and paste it, make sure that everything is right in there before you add it in.
Yeah, that's love. And I love that you mentioned JSTOR, because anyone who is connected to the ACs, check with Annie on how you can get access, because not only the citations, but the free resources they have available, it's going to be like gold for whatever you're writing. It's a really good resource. Yeah. Good. So any questions? Let's see the time here. Ooh, okay, that blew by very quickly. But we can hang around. I'm willing to hang around, guys. We're going to turn this basically to Q&A, I think is the best way to go right now, because this is kind of, let me click. All right, so yeah, this is
I have a few questions that I've held back that I've kind of seen go by, so can I ask them now? Mm-hmm. The first one that you asked me to remind you of, if I use two different ideas by two different authors in the same sentence, how to cite both?
Mm-hmm. Good, awesome, thank you, Annie. So in this context or situation, what you would do, you would put the in-text, if you're doing in-text, you would put that in the middle of the sentence. Whether you're doing footnotes or the author date, you would have 2 citations, and it would come after that first idea is finished most often. And then again at the end of the sentence after the second idea. It's a very good question. If you need more clarification on what that looks like, go out there and look for these examples. Again, things like Purdue or other style guides should kind of cover this. And they'll give you, an exact sentence with 2 ideas, and it's lovely. Good. Oh, I lost the audio.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
How to respect a writer's work and express it differently.
Ooh, okay. So you have to preserve the meaning. And I'm gonna talk about one example would be, there's some powerful speeches out there. When I was actually researching for this presentation, I found an example from Martin Luther King, and they were advising that since this is a famous and unique speech, don't necessarily paraphrase it, but use the original. So this would be, perhaps if you're worried about preserving the meaning and really respecting something like Martin Luther King, this would be a situation where you could use direct quotation. One thing I would say is it's not disrespectful to paraphrase. It's a very common practice in academia. That's, because mostly when you're writing your own work, you're not just doing a summary. A lot of the assignments you have, you're supposed to give your own point of view, and you're very much reacting in a written work. You're entering your voice into the conversation, and those ideas are what you're responding to, and also really what's kind of prompting at you. So in that sense, you don't be afraid of disrespecting by paraphrasing, as long as you put a citation there. It's good to make sure that you do understand the original work. A lot of times if I'm working, on an academic book or article, I read those things 3 or 4 times, right? I scan through there, I return to it. I want to make sure part of doing this work is making sure that you understand the original source, because you don't want to misrepresent it. So if you're afraid of maybe that disrespect element, go and read again and make sure you got that meaning. Yeah, good.
Okay, the last one is, if you roll up in the chat just a little bit, there's a question from Dora. You see it?
Yeah, so the essays, when including a quote, would it be better to write it that X, Y said? Okay, yeah, so you can say, especially, oftentimes when we see quotes, a lot of times on Facebook, Pinterest, we see it as a dash in the name. That's because it's like, that's a different form, a different medium that you're writing through. But in an essay or an academic article, we're very much, yes, you would say the name of the person, either beginning or end. And you could even look through the reporting words if they fit what that person is saying. This person claims, directly in quotations. But that's a good way and a good point on when you do include those quotes, how do you include them? Because you do have to frame them. You still have a lot of work to do, even if you're quoting direct words, because it is your essay. You have to frame this information that you're including, and everything you include is always to support your main argument. Guys, I'm gonna shut this window that is kind of disrupting us so we don't hear the big slam. 1 second, guys. All right, it's locked. Okay. So questions. Did we have any more from above Annie, or should we go to the ones down here? Okay, so we'll go. All right, perfect. If someone plagiarizes your own work, okay. My first question would be where did they plagiarize it? Where did they get it from, and where did it pop up? If it, like, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I haven't experienced this, but in the podcast they mentioned, and I wish I could remember which one this was. It might have been on writing, or the one a podcast with Marion Roach Smith. I'm gonna write Marion in the chat. Marion Roach Smith has a lovely podcast on writing. So the author mentioned that if someone, like, in the situation, she messaged the website or person directly and said, hey, you're plagiarizing. This is from my site. You saw it here and I found it. Can you please take it down? That would be the first step. The second step, and this is what I'm more unfamiliar with, is if it really matters to you and if the work is very valuable, you could involve a lawyer. And because there are a lot of copyright, a lot of concrete laws, right? So you could definitely involve some type of legal service to help you if that is the case. Suha, can reporting spoken speeches be detected by the software and how to quote them? So Suha, they absolutely, yes. The software will highlight it, but the software highlights not only what is kind of considered as from another published work, it matches it with its citation. So if you're following any of these styles, right? So you put a part of a speech in quotations, and at the end of the quotation, you do a correct citation, it's going to be fine, because you won't get that red flag. The professor will see, of course, this is a famous speech, and the highlight matches me to where she cited it, and this fits into her essay well. So in that sense, you should not be afraid of the software or plagiarism if you have quotations, if you have that citation in either the footnote, endnote, whatever you have. If you want the specifics on punctuation with quoting, again, go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, has many examples, right? Good. Any more questions, guys? Specific to your papers, specific for anything that you're struggling with in writing. Softwares for detecting plagiarism, safe and confidential. So Umaima, I will say that the software is used by what we would say professors, universities, institutions. These are top-notch, they're safe, they're professional. I think some of the other ones I'm not familiar with. I have not used them, but take each one with a grain of salt if you do find a free one or one that's cheaper and available. And if anyone in the chat, I think someone mentioned they do use a software detecting device. Go ahead and let us know again which one and what you think about it, what your experience is. Yeah, again, if you are knowledgeable on your style of citation, and you are doing your work to make sure you have correct punctuation and order, you should not be worried. Yeah. Yep, no problem. You're welcome, Umaima. Something to say with that, what was I had a point here. That's lost. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah. A couple of resources, again, JSTOR. Guys, go and read. It's like Christmas and candy and all of that lovely stuff. Yeah, a lot of days online, you can find a lot of free things online these days. I'd recommend that. Make sure it's a reputable source. Again, remember, we're working with sources here. That's the heart of plagiarism. When you have that argument, you want the information that you're providing to be a good source, a well-known source, one that other people will respect, because your professor or whoever you're submitting to will look at the sources, right? Especially academic English writing, they're very much interested in that. Yeah, it is heaven. Okay, Kamel, so you're working on building a website, how to protect your website. Again, I have my own website. I would say, like, if it's going to be published somewhere else, it would be published after the posting date that I had, and you could just point that out to people. Again, you could look more on the legality side, how to protect it. If you're worried if the information you're putting up there is very valuable, maybe you want to reconsider where you're putting things. So a lot of people who have websites say, they sell their work. If you're very, if you hold that work valuable to you, whether it's a book or something, maybe you want to look at some platform that allows you to sell ebooks or allows you to sell things like that.
There's another question. There's another question if you roll up just a little bit from Amina.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. If I use a plagiarism program to test my work before submitting, will it be considered as plagiarism? Okay. No, it shouldn't be, because if you use your own software, the plagiarism software is like a bank, but the bank is created by things that are published. So published in journals, published as books, published on the web, right? So that's where it's looking. You're not adding your paper to the bank when you check it for plagiarism, to my knowledge. Their algorithms are very much based on what is officially published. Good question. How to master paraphrasing while preserving the writer's meaning. Okay, so we did mention this a couple of times. It really, in my opinion, comes back to understanding the meaning of the author. Read 5 times. You can never get enough of that one philosophy book. Philosophy especially, guys. If you are reading and commenting on that, I will say that if English is not your first language, academic English is a bit of a burden to get into at the start. It took me, for example, guys, I went to university and took a rhetoric course. My professor said, hey, I know you're not strong in writing, and I really think you should take this course, right? So I'm a native English speaker, and I, upon entering university for my bachelor's, took a course specifically on English academic writing, because it's not natural, right? This is very much a skill that people acquire. So when you're talking about mastering this that's a big part of the writing, right? So you need to practice, you need to read other people's works. If you're really unsure of the meaning, go look on the World Wide Web, go look to see what other authors are saying about this work. You're not gonna plagiarize, you're not gonna take what they say, but you're gonna say like, hey, this person is saying this. Does it match with what I wanna do in my head? So jump into that conversation before you start to write. You can see what's out there. Again, when you do sit down to write, it will be your own words. It will be framed within your own essay, used specifically for that purpose, right? So that it's kind of like everything written out there is a tool. It's a part of the conversation, and you can take that in its own context and use it for your argument.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that question just for 1 second?
Sure, yeah.
I think that another way to help you get the meaning and put it out in your own voice is to discuss it with others that are studying the same thing or similar things.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good point, yes. Especially if you're a student in still in university, because presumably you have friends in your academic department and they have the same assignment. Yeah. Thank you, Annie. Yeah. But it does take a while. A lot when you're thinking of, starting, if you're again starting in academic English, there is a fabulous book. Let me think of it. They say, I think it's okay. I'm going to type this in chat. They say, I say, right? Go look that up. It will tell you more structure and more kind of reporting verbs and how you can paraphrase and how you enter that conversation to structure your essay. It's a full book of exercises and explanation on that. It has several editions. All of the editions are great. They just update the examples they use. So whatever edition you can get your hands on, very much that is a go-to work that I used when I was getting started, still go back to it sometimes. Another resource I'm going to type in the chat is The Craft of Research. So The Craft of Research also has several editions. Okay, so Zainab just started reading that one. Awesome, keep reading, Zainab. Let us know what you think. So The Craft of Research, okay, when we kind of started at the end of research, end of writing, right, with plagiarism. Like citations, when I'm doing this work, I save sources, but that's the last thing I do, right? When I'm organizing and doing the specifics of citations. Of course, I know where my ideas are coming from, but I fine tune that at the end. But if you're thinking about more so writing resources and how to create that research question, how to get to that argument and refine it, and how to enter the conversation, The Craft of Research was my go-to, still is when I'm kind of stumbling on a research topic. Yeah. I would definitely say either. I do want to, okay, Omaima, yes, the library Genesis. And here we're gonna get into something that is, okay. So this site, it depends which country you're in, which it makes it legal, right? So in some countries, you can't even access this library Genesis or library Z Genesis. But I would say it's a very much, the creation of it is a response to the wall, where I'd say a lot in North America and Europe, right? Many libraries give their students access to a whole plethora of journals, right? They have a lot of money, resources. You have a lot more at your fingertips, right? So I see Library Genesis as a response to that, saying there's not as much access and there's not even as much inclusion in terms of academia outside of those places. But just be careful that I can't say on the call recommending it just because it's not legal in every country. And there's a lot into giving credit and compensation to authors. So keep that in mind. But if you're stuck in a place where you have absolutely no access to, you know, academic articles, which is not true, you can talk to Annie about JSTOR. A lot of things online, but use that with a grain of salt. And yes. Let's see. Any other questions? These are fabulous questions, guys. Let's see. Any research topics? You said, so we've heard a lot of master's degrees that you're writing on. Specific topics or like another issue you're confronting as you write. We'll give you a couple, yeah, I'm gonna transition to the last slide, but if you do have, okay, lovely. Nomadic people in the MENA region. So in Tunis or like Bedouin in Jordan or whereabouts?
Like I really like to concentrate on North African, and so I've gotten to see a lot of really great like Tuareg and Amazigh kind of jewelry here. But I've also done some research in Berber, Bedouin, just anyone in the whole MENA region. I like the way that adornment speaks for someone without them having to speak. It represents them.
Yeah, wow, okay, that's really interesting. And are you still working on this topic, or
I'm working a little bit. I find myself not quite connecting to it here because there's not as many libraries, but I've gotten to go to museums and see it in person for the first time ever here, which is amazing. And I can talk to people whose families know about this, and I can see and buy real pieces. So this is a kind of education in this that I can't get in the States.
Oh, I love that. So you're working more like with primary resources and just really getting into that, and that is
really
like
cool.
A priceless opportunity. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so guys, a note on that. So primary resources would be like the actual jewelry, what you're seeing. Also interviews, right? This is straight to the source, primary resources. Historically, we could say that any documents from the time period you're working in would be this would be a primary resource. And then when we go to journal articles, these things are written after the fact by other people speaking about these types of objects or events would be the secondary. Yeah, good. And another, this reminded me, thank you, Annie, for bringing this up. A lot of times on the citations, you'll get really good at citing journal articles, newspapers, books. But if you dig deeper on these sites, each style has a guide for referencing things like images, interviews, objects in museums where they are. And I'm sure, Anna, you are an expert at that probably. I'm more of a, in the history camp, so we're still working with the documents. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't see any questions, but again, we're going to be here for a couple of minutes, so feel free to, don't be shy, ask us your questions now. We're very much here for you. No question is, every question is fair game when it comes to writing, right? And so we can just go to oh, I got a note that says Arwa raised her hand. Arwa, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, I attend very late, but I have a question. Like when we write something, we have to mention the primary resources, as you said.
Yeah, so are you working on a specific topic? What would your primary resource be?
No, I just ask if I have for example, a document or article and I have to summarize or take informations from it. So I have to quote it, or I don't need to quote, but to just write the idea and then I have to start the sources.
Okay, yes. So Arwa, I would say a couple of things here. You definitely have to either use direct quotations or paraphrase the ideas you're getting it from. And so what you can do is, I have this link here, and Layla too, I see you're looking for where to get these. Guys, this link here, my website, you can get all of these slides, and then Amadis will put up a recording. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, when I summarize it, I don't need to mention the source.
No, absolutely. You reference the source. You would reference, whatever you're working with, whether it's an interview, object, newspaper from 1920, you would definitely cite that. And a few slides previous to this, you'll see it if you go to the link I have here. You can for sure figure out in any style which you're citing how to properly cite that source. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. All right, guys. So, research-related sessions. We love research, guys. I am a nerd. Okay, so it's up to you guys and Annie. I am happy to come back because I am that much of a nerd. I love it. I love talking about this stuff. So you guys just, if you're interested, I'm here. I'm in Tunis, the capital. Maybe sometime when all of this Corona stuff is over, we can, meet in Seuss. Yeah, go nerds. So yeah.
Happy to host another session for sure. Another virtual session.
All right. Yeah, awesome. So you guys just, if you have a topic, we can talk. If it falls under what I've done in the past or what I do now, I'm happy to all chat again. So I'm going to post this link in the chat for you guys. And again, I forgot I'm in a slide. Hey, awesome. I can copy and paste from here. And if you do have questions, guys, you can find me. Here's my email, my teaching Facebook. So I do general English at Tunis, at Amadis in Tunis. I also do a bit of geopolitics and do my own research on the side. And yeah, and I do the blog. I write about cross-cultural differences, stereotypes between the US and here. So a question, statistics in quantitative research. I don't know, I will not, that's not my forte. I mostly do qualitative, but I can do paraphrasing on stats and how to read stats. So we can talk more about that, Suha. I know the struggle. The struggle is real. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, the Fulbright. Okay. The Fulbright session, there is one, guys. Anyone who's on this call and is looking to apply to the Fulbright, there's a series of these workshops that Amadeus is doing virtually. So go to the Amadeus Tunisia Facebook page and you'll see more information there about Fulbright events. Yeah.
We share them through the American Corner page too.
Okay, awesome.
We usually have them in our, either somewhere on our feed or we're a co-host, so they'll be in our events as well.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so better yet, AC Seuss, another great, yeah, I'm sure you guys are more in tune there, so yeah. All right, that's all I have for you guys. Annie, I don't know if we should wrap it up or if, again, last call for questions, anyone? Yeah, thanks. Thank you too, yeah. The Common App essay. Guys, I did that back in 2012. Another struggle. The struggle is real. Yeah, guys.
I do sessions sometimes about writing for applications and writing for scholarships and that sort of thing. And so I'm happy to do that again. I'll try to get that in the schedule sometime this summer where we can talk about how to write for applications, how to decode what they're trying to ask you and tell them what they want to hear.
Oh, I love it. Yes, guys, Annie is your resource. Yeah, don't be shy. Go to her. Definitely on writing an application essay, what they're looking for. I also, okay, I dropped Marion Roach Smith's kind of her name in the chat earlier, but in her writing podcast, so she's big on memoir, right? But she likes to say that the kind of rite of passage memoir experience that everyone goes through is the college application essay. And so she has resources on more so how to do that personal essay and kind of where memoir comes in and what you're trying to get at. That's another nerd alert. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you guys too. Thank you for everyone who posed questions and everyone who's here. Another shout out, Annie. Thank you for hosting us today. It was fun. I love it. I love getting out of the house virtually. So, yeah.
It was fun for me to get out of our normal programs. That was a good time, and I think we dorked out. That was good.
Yeah, right. It was great. We let our nerd flag fly.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So we'll probably close, I think. Annie, do you need me to do anything on this end?
Nope, you're all right. I think you're gonna have to end the call because you're the main person now. So if you end it, that'll end it for all of us.
All right. I will pull the plug.
Okay. All right.
Have a good afternoon, everyone. Shahid Taiba. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.